retreat, we had a flamingo quilt challenge, and to celebrate our upcoming beach retreat. Not every quilt is quilted, but completed tops are eligible for the Viewer's Choice Award. And several flamingo pieces are on display over here, and I'll show you a few more. Because they're cute, but they're not quilts. For instance, string art is 3 layers, but it's really not quilted. And, well, this is Bob Mackey's trip to Japan, but it's really only sewn through 2 layers, not 3. So, disqualified. Oh, and well, I'm going to thank Ruth for this joke. This is good intentions, but this is not a quilt top. That's disqualified. Okay, are you ready? We have lots of quilts to get through. Let's start with bag number 1 over there. Okay. This is a Christmas version of a pattern called Pretty Thin. The original pattern was called Springtime by Donna French Collins. And each of these challenge quilts has a little number on the corner so you can vote later. And I have pens and papers. Okay, we have Flamingo 1958, that is a Charlie Harper. And the next one is Flamingo A Go-Go, another Charlie Harper. Next, I tried my hand at a mini mosaic. This pattern is by Cheryl Lynch. And while my helpers are getting ready, when I numbered everything, I forgot about these 3 surrounding the bungalow. And this quilt and this one, I was gifted the patterns by some of our troop members after they saw the bungalow house, which was from a workshop from Robbie Porter. And then, so that one is called Beach Houses by Nancy Myrick. This one is called Flamingo Frolic by Hissy Fitz. And then these cute little panels came from Jody Houghton Designs. Okay, you ready? All right. Next is my August Crystal Flamingo. It's a variation on M.J. Kinman's Peridot pattern. So I used Peridot green for the background. Next, the River City Quilt Guild once had a challenge to make my front door, and so that's my challenge entry.
You have a pig?
Yes. The next one is playing around with raw edge applique and other embellishments. I think that was a workshop a long time ago, but I didn't put an adequate label on that quilt, so I can't tell you any more about it. The next one is paper pieced. The pattern is by Tony Smith. I was trying to demonstrate a lot of the different techniques I'm learning by making a quilt that's personal to me after I've taken a workshop. Okay, the next one is also a paper pieced pattern, but I made it so long ago that I don't have the pattern anymore, so I couldn't look up the details on it, and I apologize for that. I think it was in a magazine. Next, I'm really pleased with this one, the Baby Brimfield Stars. That's English paper pieced, and boy, those pieces are tiny on the baby one. Oh, and that pattern, well, the baby Brimfield star pattern is Kim Martucci and Nisha Buri. The next quilt is American Silhouette. The pattern is by Kathy Corella. So I tried my hand at a little Hawaiian applique. The next quilt is a fabulous flamingo quilt by the Quilted Lizard, who's Karen Eckmeyer. And you might recall that that was just at the end of last year when that was presented to our troupe. Oh, now we're going to have a series. Many years ago, I made a whole bunch of blocks from a leisure arts pattern called Flamingo Fun. And you are, I must have been crazy because I made a lot of blocks. So this is black and white birds in a regular setting. Now, I couldn't get all the birds into that one quilt. So I put the leftover black and white birds in this one. And I just got that Henry Glass fabric for the sashing, and it's going to get a bigger border too. I thought that was brilliant fabric with those birds. I was pretty excited. And you can see by now I'm trying to shake things up. Okay, then we have colorful birds on black. And I'm still thinking about how to quilt these. That's what I need to ponder it for a while. And I might say that each one of those blocks took a long time to sew. There are a lot of pieces. Okay. I know it is. It's a really cool quilt, though. Okay, now we have pink birds.
Do you get that many flamingos in your front yard?
I am limited to how many flamingos I have in the by the TH. I have a lot in the backyard, but most of them are in my basement. And by the way, I don't need any more. Okay. Here are this one. These are really jazzy, aren't they? I just love how jazzy and fun they are. Okay, and I think that's it on those, but there is actually about 7 more blocks at home that I just couldn't figure out how to put them together yet. All right, now, my one block wonder. This is the first time I made that. I'm thinking that I didn't use quite a big enough print, so it felt a little ho-hum, so I added dingle balls, which I thought added up a lot. I see Okay. Next, it's the very popular Elizabeth Hartman's Florence Flamingo pattern. And the panto on there is called Wave on Wave. And again, like that other pattern, there are a lot of pieces in that. It takes a while to sew that. And a few months ago, I was able to hear Heather Gavin speak. And she had this pattern. It's called Succulent Garden, and it's to feature border prints. So it's my big hexy quilt. The panto is Paradise Feather. And I'll tell you, I originally bought all that fabric thinking I was gonna make a whole summer wardrobe out of it. It's way better as a quilt. Okay. This is my little sleepy trio, and it's like a little toddler's napping quilt. You know, it's like a little knapsack. I have a lot of stuffed flamingos at home. They're going to start appearing in more quilts. Okay. What do I have? Oh, this is flamingo foolery through the year. The embroidery pattern is by Dandelion Seed Design. The panto I used is called Abundant Feathers, and each is a different month. And I use a little crayon and embroidery floss on those blocks. They were really fun. Oh, yeah. That fabulous fabric I got at another quilter's rummage sale. Okay. This quilt is from a challenge called Hidden Treasures. And I would like to thank Shannon Moore for helping me do some of the drawing. There are 12 things hidden in this quilt. And if you can show the back, I quilted it so that the answers were revealed with glow-in-the-dark thread. So if you look at it, there are bananas, a bowling ball, a cloud, crayon, needle, rings, ruler, scissors, seam ripper, snail, snake, and wrench. All right. Okay. Next is a friendship block quilt. Some of you who have made these blocks for me are probably wondering if they'd ever be in a quilt. They're from two different groups, the River City Quilt Guild and a smaller group called the QTs. And when we suggested doing a friendship quilt, I picked that flamingo fabric to be the unifying theme. The next quilt is called Electra Spike. The pattern is by Donna French Collins, and it is reverse applique. I think that one's pretty awesome. I like that. The next quilt. I call it, it's a bird, it's a plane. Donna French Collins called it Birds in Flight. I added Superman. You're thinking, boy, I have a lot of quilts by her. Well, let me tell you, once at an NQA show, I went with Joyce Foley, and we were going through all the vendors, and there was a booth full of flamingo quilts. And she said to me, "See you later." See you later. The next one is also by Donna French Collins. She called it Tickled Pink, and I call it my Warhol quilt. And this is the beginning of a new series for me. Right now there are only 2 tops finished, but you are going to see a lot more. The next one I'm really excited about, but I'll confess it got bigger than I thought because it's English paper pieced, and I reused some of the diamond papers I already have, and I really didn't think clearly how big this was going to get. Because the other quilt, they're all together, and it wasn't that big. But it is called Blue Suede Cubed. It's from Picasso's Blue and Cubed period. So I bet you didn't know that he loved flamingos and quilts. I am pondering how to put that one. Okay, the next one is a pattern by Laura Hine called Pinkerton, but mine is a vegan flamingo. I have a lot of novelty fabric at home, and there were a lot of vegetables. quilt, and I ordered this on Etsy from Joyful Tie-Dyes. But this shirt was so awesome, there was no way I was cutting it up.
Rock didn't move.
This is another reason why I don't make garments. I've never worn it. Once I saw it together, I went, However, there's one more quilt in our Flamingo series to vote on. I wanted to make a self-portrait, but I didn't take the workshop. So I improvised. Everybody can see themselves. Now, it looks like we still have a little more time, so I'm going to try to quickly get through some of these other quilts. Some are new and some are favorites that people ask me to bring back. Let's see. Oh, hanging is the guide quilt. So you all got a chance to look at that. And you got to see the s'mores quilt. All right, this next one is a whole cloth quilt for my own bed. It is a light color so that when the window shades are open, nothing will fade. The pattern I used to quilt it is called Seeds of Change by Christy Dillon of My Creative Stitches. And I would say that my husband is going to be really happy to have a quilt on our own bed. Okay, this next one is from a group, another round robin. And again, they probably wondered when I would ever put all those blocks together, so here they are. The panto on it is called Sit and Sew, so it's all sewing themed. This next one, I just had so much fun making it. The Hawaiian shirts, and I felt very inspired with my border. I'm pleased with that. And I went all out and even made it wavy. Yep, I'm trying to use up those leftovers on the back. That's a lot of yardage to use up, you might as well. And the panto on that is called Sally Sells Seashells. Okay, I've already confessed to having a lot of novelty fabric. And once at a show, I bought a pattern called the Home for Wayward Fabric. And that got me thinking about wayward fabric. And so I put together this quilt. And there are a lot of vices depicted. This next quilt, if you've been to my house, you've probably seen this. This quilt makes me so happy. The pattern is by Eat Cake Graphics called Yahoo Kitty, but I call mine Yippee Kitty. I changed the flowers to the yo-yos because I got those little yo-yo makers, and of course I needed to make yo-yos. All right, you might have seen this quilt before. It is my International Traveler Sue with Security Sam. In 2011, AQS had a show where they were promoting the book International Sunbonnet Sue, and they wanted you to make a little wall hanging. And so all I could think about with International was traveling. So I put her in the airport, and that was before you had to do this. And I got the most humorous award, so I was really And isn't there one more? A really heavy one? Oh, it's in that canvas bag. Yeah, that big canvas. Okay, I will tell the story while they get the quilt ready. Yeah, back in the 70s when I was a new quilter, I read a book and I saw the cathedral window and I thought, oh, I want to make that. But I had no budget for fabric. All the little gems are scraps. I was working in a costume shop and I was a disco queen and I made my own disco outfits. So that's what's in the little things. But I needed the background fabric. And when I got to the fabric store, white denim was on sale. I didn't know any better. And it was on sale, so that's what I bought. And hand sewing that, I bent needles, they were right. But I was hooked, I haven't stopped quilting. Now one of my friends, I don't know if she's here, she said, how much does that thing weigh? Well, I put it on the scale, 5 pounds. Okay, now I'm ready for the one. Yeah. Okay. This is my biscuit pinup girls. Turn it in.
Oh my God.
This was in the quilt show for, fundraising for the breast cancer awareness, and I thought, what else is better than a pinup quilt? I'm going to tell you about this. Every time I show it, you need a guard near it because everybody wants to squeeze it. This quilt was an improv quilt. I saw a pattern in Quiltmaker magazine years and years ago, and it featured the fabric that's in the center, little animals. And I bought that yardage at the time, meaning to make a quilt. And so I just made those logs just willy-nilly. And then it's a good thing I quilted it because there are some areas where there's a big tuck to make it flat because, But I like it because it's really fun.
Yeah.
And if you take a closer look, you'll see that there, as you work your way out, there's kind of a watery area, and then there are different crops, the fabrics, again, a lot of novelty fabric, until finally you have kind of sky fabrics in the outer borders. Now, I actually can make nice quilts. Okay, let me take a minute. Quilts that people think are more traditionally nice. And I wanted to play around with making a crazy sampler quilt, and I made this red and white sampler. And it's been shown in 2 different places. First at an NQA show, and then the Houston show had a call for red and white quilts, and I entered it. And it got in and it went on tour. And I was really excited. That was fun to make, but I had to think for a long time how to get the blocks to fit together. You know, sometimes a little Y seam or a partial seam until you could get everything. But that made it really fun and interesting to do. And the last quilt I have to show is a traditional rose sampler. And I had meant to make it years and years and years ago. In 2010, oh wait, let me back up. And there was an NQA show. I put it in there when they called for rose sampler quilts. And that was really fun. Then in 2010, I put it in the machine quilting show in Milwaukee. And I got a 3rd place ribbon for traditional quilting, and that made me real happy. Every time I show this quilt, I would say that the most people gravitate to it. I think the contrast of the fabrics and everything has a lot of broad appeal. So people really like this quilt, and I'm pleased with it. And you know, it's a good thing I didn't make it with the fabrics I first picked up. They wouldn't have been so good. So that's all the quilts I have for you. I hope that you'll take a minute to cast your viewers' choice ballot for the flamingo quilts. They all have a little tag on them so you can vote. Thank you.